This is a relatively new phoropter, actually manufactured about 10 years ago. I believe the 0706 refers to 2007, 6 months, so not quite 10 years old. The main feature that I have a problem with this manufacture year and years beyond it is that all the Phoroptor lenses are coated with anti-reflection coating. I believe that's useless from a refracting standpoint, but it's extremely annoying from a Phoropter maintenance, Phoropter cleaning standpoint. Now, I believe the first year group that the anti-reflection coating was used was around 2004. Usually sphere lenses I find quite easy to clean. You can access each lens one at a time from both sides, and usually a plain glass lens cleans real easily and smoothly. However, once anti-reflection coating is on it, it seems like it takes much more effort. The slightest little bit of oil or debris or smear or anything really makes it look terrible. Cylinder lenses can be cleaned by rotation, so in some ways you can clean the periphery and then clean the center, and it's usually not as tough for that. The auxiliary lenses are also not too difficult, and I think part of it is they don't have very deep wells, whereas all the sphere lenses have somewhat deeply set wells that if there's any oil or grease, glues that are on the periphery of the lens, that's easily picked up by the Q-tip while cleaning, which then smears all over the lens surface, and it's really hard to purge all the oils, etc., from the lens surface, because it seems to adhere fairly tenaciously to the anti-reflection coating, whereas a plain glass lens cleans off much more smoothly and leaves like almost no residue. But now that they put anti-reflection coating on these lenses, it just makes it a lot tougher. So I was looking at some way to clean the lenses more effectively. The first thing I looked into was maybe changing a cleaning solution, and so I think this bottle is like $30. It's nearly a quart. Yeah, it's a quart of cleaner for anti-reflective coated lenses, and I found it was really no better than the usual cleaner I use, which is Glass Plus. I was told, oh, cleaning cloths should work very nicely. Well, when you try to stuff a cleaning cloth down in the inside a Phoropter, you can't see what you're doing because the cloth occupies so much space, and it's tough to manipulate, and I found it was even worse than using a Q-tip. So I thought back on how an optician once told me that, oh, you should clean anti-reflection coated lenses with Dawn dish soap. I thought, well, that's great, but you can't get really inside a Phoropter with Dawn dish soap. And then I figured out a way to do it. So to test out the cleaning method, I got a small bottle of Dawn dish soap. And then I found for dispensing it, it would be easier if I had it in sort of a hand soap pump dispenser. But this is still Dawn dish soap inside this dispenser. This is my usual annual servicing method for Phoropters. I dismantle each Phoropter one bank at a time, removing both sphere lenses, the power plate, the screws, that hold the cylinder assembly in place, the screws that hold the sphere power plate in place. And then I lubricate select points inside the Phoroptor, typically this sphere wheel, index this one. I lubricate the 3 bearings that are exposed here by rotating the Geneva assembly. I wipe off the old diluted grease and put in a fresh mixture of Seal Glide and 3-in-1 oil. And then I usually lubricate here, and as long as it's moving pretty smoothly, I let it go at that. I clean up any debris around the Phoroptor body, and then I pretty much put things back together again. However, for anti-reflection coated lenses, I found it beneficial to actually scrub and clean the sphere wheels. In order to scrub the sphere wheels, what I typically do is remove the bearing from each side, wipe off the grease from the bearing surfaces, and then take the sphere wheel to a sink and scrub with hot soapy water. So this is the setup in which you can manually scrub the sphere wheel surface to remove all stray oils, glue residue, grease, anything that's on this lens wheel that can cause the lens surfaces to get smeared with this debris. So I start off just a general cleaning, and then I do circular scrubbing motions around the lens well of each individual lens. And I'm paying special attention to get around the periphery, because especially the 5+ sphere lenses on this 3-diopter sphere wheel, it's tough to clean to the edge of the lens without rubbing the metal surface. So if there's any oil or grease around the periphery, then that Q-tip picks that up and smears it around the lens, which makes the cleaning process extremely difficult. So I've gone in one direction, scrubbing all the lenses. Now I'm, for good effect, reversing direction and going back through and scrubbing around each lens again. So I've done this both sides, double cleaning. Then to dry off the lens wheel, you'd want to have a relatively lint-free towel, soft cloth to clean it off. Now this, oddly enough, is a baby diaper. There's never been a baby bottom attached to this, but it's a type of cloth that's available. Even Gerber makes it, and so you can scrub around each lens to remove residual water, any residual debris to dry it thoroughly. And I do this for both lens wheels. Now I found out the hard way that a lot of toothbrushes are too rough on anti-reflection coated lenses. Now the conventional toothbrush has fairly rough bristles. I'm going to get some magnification to visualize this better. So this is a conventional toothbrush sold at a local grocery store, and it has the typical bristles, which are sort of chopped off bristles, and some of them can have actually kind of sharp edges. Teeth can handle it. I'm not sure how well gums handle it, but I've had some brand new Phoroptors with anti-reflection coated lenses and used a conventional toothbrush to scrub them, as I just showed you, and what I found is there were a lot of scratches that occurred on these brand new lenses. Now I didn't inspect it beforehand, but my assumption is the scratches weren't there, but the rough bristles of a conventional toothbrush actually scratched the anti-reflection coated lenses. Not the glass itself, but the coating on it, which is very fragile. For a number of years I've been using, this is not a brand new brush, but for a number of years I've been using a toothbrush type which has very soft bristles, which have very fine points on them, which are not chopped off pieces of plastic. They're so soft to the gums that they do almost no damage, and these also are very soft to anti-reflection coated lenses. So this is a new brush straight out of the package, and you can see the very fine tips to the brush, which are not the usual sharp chopped off pieces of plastic that can scrape anti-reflection coating and scrape gums. It is so gentle that this is what is suitable for scrubbing the fragile anti-reflection coated surfaces of lenses. When this first came out, they actually put the website name nimbusdental.com on the brushes, and now the new brushes don't have that identification on them. Now, after I've thoroughly dried around each lens of the lens wheel, I also go through and heat it up with a hair dryer to drive off any additional moisture. Underneath this sphere power plate, moisture can actually be trapped, and so I do a lot of blotting around the periphery and also heating it up when I'm all done. The bearings still have their original lubrication on it. I didn't remove any of the grease from the bearings. However, the bearing surfaces where the bearings contact is now totally, completely clean. What I found an easy way to re-lubricate those surfaces, this is my usual mixture of Sil Glide grease, and this is what the new container looks like. A mixture of Sil Glide grease and 3-in-1 oil. I put in a container, whip it together until I get the right consistency, the right thickness of the grease. And then to spread it on surfaces, this is an artist brush, essentially, a little wider than a maybe usual artist brush, but it allows me to lubricate fairly large surfaces. Previous, I just sort of wiped it with a Q-tip with this grease in it, but I found the Q-tips would fall apart pretty quickly, whereas the brush can be reused and does a good application job. So this whole process of lens scrubbing seems to add about 30 minutes to the whole process of my usual internal servicing of the Phoroptors. So let's say if I'm spending about an hour on one Phoroptor, it ends up being an hour and a half. You say, well, how could that possibly be worth it? Well, it's not unusual for regular Phoroptor to take between 3 and 5 hours on the optics, but I've had many times with anti-reflection coated lenses that I spent a dozen hours and the lenses still don't look that clean, and I just sort of give up. They've got these smears on them I can't get off, and that's a real problem with anti-reflection coated lenses. But when I scrub them clean, it seems to minimize that side effect, and it feels like I'm cleaning a normal Phoroptor, at least for the sphere lenses. Again, the auxiliary lenses don't have as deep of wells, and with the cylinder lens, you can actually hold the Q-tip steady with a cleaner on it while you're wiping the periphery, and then dry it in the same way, and the deep well doesn't seem to be a problem because you're able to rotate the cylinder lens as you're cleaning it. Sphere lenses, though, can have a lot of clutter on the periphery, which if you scrub it all off, the whole process goes much more smoothly. So it's 30 minutes well invested for anti-reflection coated lenses. I don't have a feeling yet if I need to do that every year or not, but if you've got a hot steaming body sitting behind the Phoroptor, odds are you're going to have a lot of oils and film on the lenses. And so it may very well be worth the effort to take the extra 30 minutes each year on annual servicing to scrub the lenses clean, scrub the sphere lenses clean. Also, I go through 4 towels per Phoroptor, a separate towel for each sphere wheel on both sides. When I got done scrubbing the 4 sphere wheels and then reassembling the Phoroptor, the cleaning work was actually not done. there was still more that needed to be done. I then went through each lens individually and cleaned them further. Now these are the plus minus 3 diopter sphere lenses, which I've actually cleaned one lens at a time to make them look like this. When I was done with scrubbing the lenses, there were assorted lenses like this that were not fully clean. They look pretty good when you hold them up to a light, but when you look at it with the indirect light shining on the lens from the side, from the front, it highlights the defects. It shows you what really can and should be done before you're done cleaning the phoropter. The scrubbing of lenses, though, removed large amounts of oil and debris, which makes cleaning the lens very straightforward without having to clean a single lens multiple times. The cleaning process actually went very smoothly. Now these are lenses I haven't cleaned yet. These are the cylinder lenses. And, you know, usually these don't look that bad because in a regular exam room, you don't have a light shining in the patient's face, and so they look quite functional. These are only mildly dirty lenses, and they don't look bad at all. But the light from the side helps show you what needs to be done to clean the lens completely.